Let's roll. This is SportsRage. I am Gabriel Morency. The pimps, the players, the hustlers, the people, the bustlers, but everybody else in between. The Wicked Wednesday has begun. Countdown to tee off is on. It's the Masters. So we got the best in the business. Brady Cannon's going to step up and join us this evening. His countdown to tee off is on. There are a bunch of hole-in-ones today in their par 3 tournament. We'll break it down. We've got a million picks for the Masters, but we got games coming up right now. The big one in the National Basketball Association, and normally in the NBA, there's always it's a big game, or it's a cool matchup, but this guy's out and that guy's out and this guy's out. The fact of the matter is both teams are locked and loaded. They're ready to go tonight. They both played last night, and they're playing for first place actually as well. So it actually does matter. I don't think it's the be-all, end-all for the Denver Nuggets as the defending champions, but nevertheless, it is a big basketball game tonight. We got a big one in the National Hockey League as well, and sort of coincides because we're going to parlay the two of them together, and it coincides because the Edmonton Oilers are winning right now, even without Connor McDavid. All right, we're at the point right now in the National Hockey League. The playoffs are set to begin next week, and teams are like, yeah, whatever. We're not going to risk our injury here if a player isn't 100%. And McDavid's not 100%, but the Oilers are winning anyways. And the Vancouver Canucks, they've got a lead on Edmonton for first place, but it's not locked down yet. If they could just nail down another couple of points tonight, it's pretty much going to be there, but it's not mathematical yet. Although the fact that McDavid didn't play for Edmonton kind of lets you know they're not all in on this thing. Right? The Oilers are thinking, you know what? It's better that McDavid is 100% and whatever, man. We get this seed or that seed. But I expect Vancouver to win tonight against the Coyotes. And if you're a Coyote player right now, how focused are you? Let's just call it out for what it is. Like, if you're a Coyote player, you've got they're all pretty young. So I don't know how many of them actually have families. I'm sure a couple of them do. But as a whole, if you're a Coyote player, you're thinking, man, I'm moving to Salt Lake, right? Or do I even want to go to Salt Lake? Or am I going to try to get out of this? You know what I'm saying? You're going to tell your agent, yo, bro, I don't want to go to Salt Lake, right? So get me out of this thing, and I want to be traded. So, like, if you're a Coyote player, there's a couple of games left. You guys suck. You're at the end of the line here. There's talk about you moving. How focused are you? Meanwhile, Vancouver need to win this game, all right? I think Vancouver only have one more home game after this, too. Shout out to everyone joining us on Sirius XM Channel 159. So a Denver Nugget money line and a Vancouver Canucks to win parlay is minus 114. I do expect the Nuggets to win this game. The T-Wolves are good. It's going to be a battle. I do think Denver will win a close game. They're laying 7 points right now, though. I don't want to lay 7 points with the Nuggets. Phoenix and the Clippers are playing again, and it's another one of these train wreck point spreads. It's 11.5 tonight. It's like, yeah, whatever. This is one of those games where it's like, yeah, dude, I just, can't deal with it, right? But Minnesota and Denver, the total is 214. Man, and, I'm like a crackhead in a parking lot while they're filming a TV show Bait Car when it comes to overs in the NBA. I look at these totals sometimes, and I'm like, come on, man. Minnesota and Denver, 214? Like, 214? I mean, man, somebody's NCAA tournament games got to 214. Look, you guys can't get to 214 points, but they are good defensively, and it is a big game. But it seems to me that 214 is pretty low, for any NBA game. With the, really, it's 2024, isn't it? So the total feels a little light there at 214. As far as the National Hockey League is concerned, only one game left, Arizona and Vancouver. The total is 6.5. I don't think we're going to get there to 7 because I don't think Arizona's going to score that much. I can see Vancouver winning this game like 4-2 or something like that. 4-1, 4-2, 3-1. Vancouver have sort of tightened things up defensively. They don't score as many goals anymore. I don't know, getting to 7, yeah, it sort of takes 2 to dance. You know what I mean? It's 6.5 to get to 7 in a hockey game. Takes 2 to dance. So let's go under the number at 6.5. So over in the basketball game, over the 214, and under the 6.5. And we're coming up with these plays. These are late additions. The Brooklyn Nets have just beaten the Raptors right now, 106-102, which is actually a good thing if you're the Toronto Raptors. You're trying to stay in the bottom 6 because you have a top 6 protected pick. If you fall out, like they finished like 7th or something like that, 7th worse, then San Antonio gets their pick. So it's almost like you'll notice the Raptors, everybody's suddenly hurt all the time, right? Like the Raptors are in full tank mode right now. What a disastrous season has been for them now. All right, so, wow. I don't know. It's 213.5 right now. I swear, I'm looking here. It just moved from 214 to 213. Dear God, 213. Oh, all right. Oh, no, it went back up to 214. It's deceptive. I saw 214. Now it says 213, and I clicked the 213, and it goes, no, it pops up at 214. So we're going to go over the number here. 214 points in Denver. In the Mile High City as they host the T-Wolves. Let's go under 6.5 in the VNC as the Vancouver Canucks host the Coyotes, in which I guess this will be the last time the Arizona Coyotes, very sentimental moment. Last time the Arizona Coyotes will be the Arizona Coyotes in Vancouver. It looks like it's pretty much going to happen for real, that it's done. The dude in Utah owns the Utah Jazz, and he's been wanting an NHL team in Salt Lake for a couple of years. He's super rich. He's super successful. He's young. Commissioners like him. He's a tech guy, young guy. He graduated from BYU. He's trying to build Salt Lake up. Salt Lake's actually a big tech hub right now. Salt Lake City is one of the fastest growing cities in the States, in the United States right now. So from a business standpoint, it does make sense. You figure hockey will work. They've had a tradition of hockey, not NHL hockey, in the past. And the NHL is a very cautious league. Gary Bettman, you can't, put it this way. The owner of the Utah Jazz has a poll question up on Twitter right now. What should the name of the team be? With a little quote, if we're lucky enough to get an NHL team. He's not taking, like rich dudes don't waste their time on Twitter with poll questions as far as team names, unless they know, oh, yeah, by the way, I'm getting the damn team. So looks like that's a done deal. So Brady Cannon in the house. I know Brady's fired up. Like, this is, I think he's more fired up right now. Brady probably has the same feeling that I had when I was tailgating at the Rose Bowl for Michigan and Alabama before the Rose Bowl. This year, because I was fired up. I was like, let's go. Let's do this thing. I remember it was like 2 hours away, the game, and it felt like 20 hours, even though it was beautiful out. I was like, man, is this game ever going to kick off? And it finally did, but we're ready for tee-off at Augusta. This is Sports Rage.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I mean, is it pretty much cut and dry that NC State is the biggest surprise of the weekend? I mean, I don't think anybody's bracket had the Wolfpack going this far.
I think they're going to find a way to keep this one close. And we all know Purdue's tournament history under Matt Painter. They've had a lot of early exits when they've been good teams, and maybe this is the time they'll exercise their demons. It's kind of like when Virginia lost to that 16-seed UMBC.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
We had the best team in Colorado losing. So there's it's not even like Colorado's going to sit on it, right? I mean, there's no way in the world we're not getting one more goal. We're going to cash this ticket. Cha-ching, cha-ching.
I love the bet. I love the price. I think that's, like I said, that's one we're going to have to, we're telling everybody right now. they're probably moving it in risk rooms everywhere right now based on us giving out this information.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
North Carolina come back, take the lead, and then somehow Alabama punches back. A true classic. Like, the word classic gets tossed around loosely a lot, but that really was a true classic.
Great point earlier about Arizona. They had such an advantage under the basket, yet they're having guys just chuck threes. Their whole game plan sucked from the get-go. Like, the fact that they lost that game, I put a lot of it on coaching.
SportsRage Late Night, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
SportsRage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is Sports Rage. I'm Morency. Let's do this thing. The pimps, the players, the hustlers, the people, the bust them, and everybody else in between. It's a getaway day, Major League Baseball, so nothing going on in the late night hours here. We've got in-game action going on, but no games starting right now. One game in the National Hockey League. It's the calm before the storm, but it's a big one. The Vancouver Canucks trying to hold off the Edmonton Oilers in the Pacific Division. And we've got a big game in the NBA with the T-Wolves and the Nuggets, so we parlayed the Canucks to win the game with the Denver Nuggets, minus 114. We played the over 214 in the NBA game. We played under 6.5 in the Canucks and the Coyotes game. And I do think that the Canucks will win by minus 1.5. But without further ado, let's get to the Masters right now because it's a massive event. Brady Cannon in the house doing his, this is the 19th hole for Brady, literally and figuratively. He's done maybe 18 hits today already. Brady, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. I know you're fired up for the Masters. Let's rock.
Hey, we saved the best for last, my man. You're right. It's actually been about 18 spots the last 2 days, a couple of articles written. Boy, I don't know what I've gotten myself into, but, it's all good. I mean, you really wouldn't want to have it any other way for such an event. I get so excited about it. You talked about the tailgate before the Rose Bowl. No, I'm right there with you, man. It's every year, the buildup. It's fantastic. Here we are. I'm going to wake up tomorrow and wake up early to catch some of the early stuff. The bad news is we're supposed to get some weather tomorrow. It's supposed to start about midnight Eastern with some showers in the Augusta, Georgia area and all the way through the afternoon on Thursday. It might, affect just about every tee time tomorrow. There's some electricity in the air as well, supposed to be possible lightning. Now, that'll stop a golf tournament in a hurry. I hope they avoid stoppages. I hope they avoid delays. I hope it doesn't interrupt the flow of things too much because I never want the weather to be the end-all, be-all of the handicap. If you have a bias in the draw, the guys that went out early had an advantage, this and that. I hate it when that happens. It doesn't look like that will happen because it looks like Thursday ought to get weather, for most of the day into the early afternoon, and that would affect just about every start time. I just hope it is not delayed or interrupted too much so it doesn't interrupt the flow. And the flow being interrupted not only hurts the players, but it's not good for us fans and bettors either.
It's a great point that you raised, Brady, as far as the weather and guys getting a fair chance, because in most sporting events, in all sporting events, the weather could be terrible. The Dodgers were a good example in Chicago, in which they were complaining about playing in puddles. but hey, the Cubs are playing in puddles as well, right? But in golf, you can really get screwed over, and it's frustrating for the player, but it's frustrating for a bettor as well, that if your guy tees off at a time when it happens to be horrible weather and raining and windy, and then they shut it down and somebody else tees off when the sun's coming out and there's rainbows in the sky, then you really didn't get a fair shake. But that's golf, isn't it? But one thing I love about the Masters that I like about it from a betting perspective, or I find fascinating, is history kind of really does repeat itself here. There are a lot of trends and sort of, it's a lot like the national championship. There's a lot of names you can throw out there before a tournament, but there's like 7 or 8 substantial things and ingredients that you need to win. And you can be, you know what I mean? You can be flashy, but if you don't have that, you're not going to do it. And let me just throw a couple of things at you and ask you about some of these players. Because the thing that fascinates me is just how rough it is your first time to play in the Masters. In which, guys, there's only been... Yeah, and Brady, I find it funny because they say there's only 3 people who have ever won a Masters in their first time. How can we count the first Masters ever? Because they count that. That's the way because I'm like, no, I was confused. I'm like, well, no.
Who is that?
It's
Horton Smith or something like that?
Yes, great call. Great call. 1935. Horton Smith. No, the first Masters, and then Gene Sarazen in 1935. But if everybody was new, it's not the same. But all kidding aside, so great call. Horton Smith won the first Masters. Gene Sarazen won in 1935. And then Fuzzy Zeller, his first time in 1979, which would eliminate Wyndham Clark, Aberg, Batia, Højgaard, Eric Cole, Denny McCarthy, Stephen Yeager, Jake Knapp, Malnati, Grayson Murray, Pavon, who had a nice year. But it doesn't mean that these guys can't be top 20 or something, right? Because debutantes have come close a couple of times.
Absolutely. Jordan Spieth and Will Zalatoris, both runner-up in their debut appearance at the Masters. And I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a guy like Ludwig Åberg, get a runner-up, a top 5, a top 10. This guy is absolutely the real deal, and not that Wyndham Clark isn't. But I kind of give Åberg the advantage there. Of those 2 guys, they are certainly the most prolific of all the debutants this year. I think Åberg, and Wyndham Clark has a pretty darn good Augusta game as well. He's got the short game. He's long enough off the tee. The one thing I don't love about Wyndham Clark is he relies more so on a fade shot than he does a draw. And it's really advantageous around Augusta National to be able to play a draw. Now, we saw Jon Rahm win last year, who prefers a fade as well. It's not like you can't do it. That's really changed. Back in the old days, you kind of had to be able to hit a draw. Since they've lengthened the course and given these guys more room off the tee, you can kind of do more with that fade shot. So it's not as prohibitive as it used to be. But I think Åberg is maybe a little bit more dynamic with his game than Wyndham Clark is. I actually faded Wyndham Clark in a matchup. I took Joaquin Niemann at minus 120 over Wyndham Clark, and I've seen that price go up. I've seen it go to about minus 130 or so. And like to your point, Gabe, I don't expect Wyndham Clark to fall on his face. I'd be a little bit surprised if he didn't finish top 20. But I feel better about Åberg. I think that guy could be a strong bet for a top 10 and certainly a top 20.
Another thing that catches my eye about this, and what's your take on this, that I find it fascinating, experience. We talked about your first time, but not just experience, but coming close matters. 7 of the last 10 Masters winners had a top 5 finish at the Masters on their resume before they won.
Yep, absolutely. And it just plays into what you're talking about experience. And it's nothing against these debutantes. It's not like they're bad players. It just takes time to figure out this Augusta National puzzle. It is absolutely so quirky. There are so many nuances. The wind, the way it swirls on certain holes, the certain breaks of the greens, chipping around these shaved runoff areas, uneven lies, balls above your feet, balls below your feet, narrow chutes, where you're hitting through trees off the tee. You have to get around here a few times before you kind of know all right, here's what I need to do here. Here's what I need to do there. And you can't figure that out in 2 or 3 days of practice rounds. It used to be not that long ago, Gabe, that a guy had to play 6 Masters before he was likely to go on to win. Now it's backed off a little bit to maybe 3 or 4 attempts. But the point is, you got to get around here a number of times before you know all the twists and turns of Augusta National. And yeah, if you've had success and finished top 5, couple of top 10s, you're getting awful close. You know, I mean, I talked about Neiman in a head-to-head matchup. I love the trend that he's on. His first time here, he finished 69th. Second time here, 40th. Then 35th. And last year, 16th. He's on a positive trajectory there. And I bet him outright too. You know, this guy checks a number of boxes for me, but to your point, he hasn't had the top 5, but maybe this year's a top 5. Maybe he won't win it all. Maybe he gets a top 5 this year, wins it next year. He's on the right path though.
Another interesting trend, guys. 8 of the last 10 Masters winners have either won a major before or had a runner-up before. Another thing, guys that have been at the top, the guys that have battled. And speaking of close calls, a guy that will hit on the other side is Xander Schauffele, who I've lost a lot of money over the years betting, trying to win a major. Should I do it again? We're going to find out on the other side.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I mean, is it pretty much cut and dry that NC State is the biggest surprise of the weekend? I mean, I don't think anybody's bracket had the Wolfpack going this far.
I think they're going to find a way to keep this one close. And we all know Purdue's tournament history under Matt Painter. They've had a lot of early exits when they've been good teams, and maybe this is the time they'll exercise their demons. It's kind of like when Virginia lost to that 16-seed UMBC.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
We had the best team in Colorado losing. So there's it's not even like Colorado's going to sit on it, right? I mean, there's no way in the world we're not getting one more goal. We're going to cash this ticket. Cha-ching, cha-ching.
I love the bet. I love the price. I think that's, like I said, that's one we're going to have to, we're telling everybody right now. They're probably moving it in risk groups everywhere right now based on us giving out this information.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
North Carolina come back, take the lead, and then somehow Alabama punches back. A true classic. The word classic gets tossed around loosely a lot, but that really was a true classic.
Great point earlier about Arizona. They had such an advantage under the basket, yet they're having guys just chuck threes. Their whole game plan sucked from the get-go. The fact that they lost that game, I put a lot of it on coaching.
SportsRage Late Night, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
SportsRage Late
Night.
Night.
This has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is Sports Rage. I am Morency. A lot of stuff I want to throw at Brady. So let's just start off with what's a popular play amongst bettors is the first round leader, because you get great odds with golfers. So you're getting better odds. Crazily enough, you're getting bigger numbers than you would to win a tournament. And for the impatient bettors, you only have to wait one day.
Yeah, I know, just a few hours, right? I mean, the first round leader bet is maybe the very most fun bet there is. It's also one of the worst ones to try and win money. It's the biggest hold percentage by the book. So my advice to the listeners and the viewers out there is to tread lightly. Don't do more than hot dog money on this stuff. And that's exactly what I did. This is the first round leader market I've gotten involved with the entire year, because it's the Masters, and why not? Let's have some fun with it. Let's have a little action going on Thursday. I ended up playing 5 guys. Xander Schauffele, who you mentioned there before we went to break. I also have an outright on him. Xander Schauffele at 22-1 to be first round leader. He's 8th in birdie average. He's 8th in first round scoring average, and he's 2nd in bogey avoidance. So those are 3 statistics that I look at. How low can you go in the first round? Do you make a lot of birdies, and do you avoid a lot of bogeys? That combination is pretty good if you're looking for a first round leader. Chris Kirk at 90-1, 2nd in birdie average on tour, 9th in first round scoring average, 9th in bogey avoidance. Shane Lowry at 45-1, 12th in birdie average, 2nd in first round scoring average, also above average in bogey avoidance. And then Jason Day at 50-1, 26th in birdie average, 16th in first round scoring, and 7th in bogey avoidance. Now here's the interesting one. Justin Thomas at 35-1. This guy has really been all over the map. I actually bet him outright way back in January before the season started, because I thought he'd have a bounce back campaign after being so bad in 2023. And I was right for a minute. He has started off great to the season. Now, the last couple weeks, he misses the cut at the Players' Championship. He's the in-game favorite going into the weekend at the Valspar, and then just throws up all over himself and ends up finishing almost dead last. And now the world is against JT. You've seen his price drift from like 24 all the way up to almost 60. And that's also influenced by the fact that he just fired his caddy. The week before the Masters, he fires Bones Mackay, who used to be Phil Mickelson's caddy. Led Mickelson to a couple Masters victories, led JT to a PGA championship, and he gets rid of him. Now, here's my angle for the first round leader. Not only does he have good numbers, 9th in birdie average, 17th in first round scoring, but you know how it is in hockey or basketball, Gabe, when they
first game with a new manager, huh?
Yeah. So I'm thinking JT, he might be sparked on Thursday. He might come out guns a-blazing. It might not last all 4 days. Maybe it will.
Yeah.
But I think that first day, he could, that might light a fire under him, and who knows? He might go nuts on that first day. I think I wouldn't be surprised if he did.
If we can get Brady's overall outright winners up on the screen, and let me ask you, because I look at your list here: Xander Schauffele, Jordan Spieth, Zalatoris, Hideki Matsuyama, Neiman, Tony Finau, Shane Lowry. You're staying away from the Live Tour players, aren't you? Is there a reason specifically, or besides Neiman?
I got Neiman in there. Yeah.
Was there a reason, like from the Rahm, from Koepka, right, to many others, Bryson? Did you stay away, or did it just happen organically? Or did you just say, no, I don't want them? Because I wanted to get your take on John Rahm. People aren't talking about him very much. Scheffler. I think Rahm really has something to prove to come back and say, oh, by the way, I might have laughed and you stopped talking about me, but remember, I'm still the best player.
There's no doubt about it. And I know some very highly regarded people in the golf betting space that like John Rahm this week, and I'm not going to argue with him. I didn't land on him, and not because the short price. I think he's actually pretty good value at 12 or 13 to 1.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
It's being inflated a little bit because Scotty's so short. But I think the defending champion thing is really, really difficult. It's only happened 3 times, and who's done it? Tiger, Jack, and Nick Faldo. Doesn't happen all that often. And I think all the distractions, the champions dinner, the media commitments, the pressure. Even John Rahm said he won his first major, the U.S. Open, and that was massive. He said it was a bigger deal when he won the Masters. So now he's going to tee it up on Thursday, and he's full of that emotion. I think it's difficult to really turn that trick again. So but everything you're saying and these other people who like Rahm that I really respect, absolutely. This guy, just because he went to live doesn't mean he's not a top 3 player in the world anymore. As far as some of the other players, DJ, there's some people that like him. I wouldn't be surprised if he did well. I just don't think he's going to win it. I think there's better players in the world right now than DJ. He peaked when he won this thing and almost, could have won it again when he fell down the stairs. That was the top of his game as well. I think I might have been on him that year or something, if I recall. But that was kind of his prime. And I think he's past his prime a little bit. He's still excellent. And he could still win golf tournaments. But I don't think it's going to happen this week. Bryson's in great form on the live circuit, but he's never done well here. This course, you would think it would work for him, but it hasn't. Cam Smith, he has not been in good form on the live circuit, had to pull out a live Doral because of food poisoning. I don't put much into that, and he's got a great track record here. But Brooks Koepka was the interesting one for me. Neiman, as I've already kind of outlined, he makes a ton of sense. The guy has all the tools. He's won at Riviera, which is a correlated course. He lost in a playoff at Kapalua, which is a correlated course. We went through his progressively better finishes here the last 4 years. I think he makes a ton of sense. But Brooks Koepka, Gabe, maybe a little bit opposite of Rahm, where Rahm's not getting the attention. I think Koepka's getting too much attention. I think bettors are going to the window just blindly because they know, oh, it's a major. I got to bet on Brooks Koepka. All he does is win majors. That's all he cares about. And what did I see last when I watched the Masters? That's the last golf tournament I ever bet on. I saw Brooks Koepka leading this thing for 3 days. He's out for revenge. No, he avenged that loss the very next month when he won the PGA. I don't think history is necessarily going to repeat itself with Brooks, being in the lead for 2.5 days or whatever. He's been in really poor form on the live circuit the last 2 or 3 weeks. He just finished like 42nd or 45th or something like that at Doral, Miami, out of only 54 players in the field. You remember when he did so well at Augusta last year, he was coming off of a win in Orlando, Florida. So, I agree with all the stuff that Brooks doesn't care about this and that, and he's 100% focused on majors, but I just don't know if the form is there. And I think maybe it's a little too popular with the mindset that, I saw what he did last year and all he does is win majors. So I got my money on Brooks again. I don't like that approach.
Which leads us into a head-to-head matchup that you like, and you pull the trigger on Jordan Spieth to defeat Brooks Koepka.
Yeah, absolutely. And basically for the same reasons. I like Spieth here. I have an outright on him. I kind of have a rule of my own that if Jordan Spieth is over 20-1 to win the Masters, I'm going to jump in. Gabe, this is a tournament that I've heard people say only 12 guys can win this tournament. I've heard guys say as many as 40 guys can win this tournament. It's probably somewhere in between. When you eliminate the first timers, the old guys, this and that, the newcomers, there really might be only 25 or 30 guys that can win here. So it shouldn't be that hard of a handicap. And you've got a guy like Jordan Spieth who's been here 10 times. He's finished top 5 6 times, including a win, runner-up twice, third twice, fourth last year. If this guy is bound to finish top 5 again, then he's going to have a chance to win. The knock on Jordan Spieth is sometimes he gets a little errant with the driver. Last week at the Valero Texas Open, in that field, he was 4th in strokes gained off the tee and 15th in driving accuracy. If the driver's firing, we know everything else is good. The short game always seems to find another gear here at this place for Jordan Spieth. And not that Brooks is going to do poorly. He's certainly one of the best players in the world, too. Even though the form hasn't looked good the last few weeks, he does have a mindset for this tournament and major championships. And if he finishes outside the top 20, that would be a little surprising. I just think Spieth is going to do better and possibly win it.
2 other head-to-head matchups that Brady likes, Neiman over Wyndham Clark and Tony Finau over Cameron Young. And Tony Finau is the guy, isn't he, Brady, that has been known to play strong in first rounds and opening rounds in the past? He's not like sometimes like he comes shooting out of the gate.
Yeah, and I would have to look that up. I don't know that off the top of my head, but it would not surprise me at all. He's playing some of the best golf of his life, actually, believe it or not. He is number 6 on the PGA Tour for strokes gained tee to green, number 6 in par 5 scoring. You know how big par 5 scoring is here at Augusta. He's 7th for strokes gained approach, and he's in the top 20 for hole proximity from 200 yards or greater, which is the primarily length of the approach shots you're going to find here at Augusta. So everything is firing except for the putter for Tony Finau, and that's really been a bugaboo for his entire career. It got hot for him last year, and he won a few times, but he's had a 5th here at Augusta. He's had 2 top 10s. He just comes off of a runner-up at Memorial Park in Houston, where he's also won before, and I feel that is another correlated course. I think Tony Finau's in really good form right now, and if he just putts average, he could win this thing. I have him at 47-1. I'm okay with anything in the 40s. I have good feelings about Tony Finau this week, and a lot of people like Cameron Young, and rightly so. He bombs the ball. He hits the irons well. But the putter is really bad for Cameron Young right now. And this is, Finau's been here and done that, and I think he knows how to navigate his way around the greens. I'm not so sure about Cameron Young, who's only here for the 3rd time. If he struggles with the putter again this week, he has a 10 to get fiery and frustrated. I think it could go south for Cam Young. So, again, Wyndham Clark, I think he'll do okay, but I think Spieth, Neiman, and Finau will do better than their opponents in those matchups.
All right, we'll wrap up with Brady on the other side. This is Sports Rage.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I mean, is it pretty much cut and dry that NC State is the biggest surprise of the weekend? I mean, I don't think anybody's bracket had the Wolfpack going this far.
I think they're going to find a way to keep this one close. And we all know Purdue's tournament history under Matt Painter. They've had a lot of early exits when they've been good teams, and maybe this is the time they'll exercise their demons. It's kind of like when Virginia lost to that 16-seed UMBC.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
We had the best team in Colorado losing. So there's it's not even like Colorado's going to sit on it, right? I mean, there's no way in the world we're not getting one more goal. We're going to cash this ticket. Cha-ching, cha-ching.
I love the bet. I love the price. I think that's, like I said, that's one we're going to have to, we're telling everybody right now. They're probably moving it in risk rooms everywhere right now based on us giving out this information.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
North Carolina come back, take the lead, and then somehow Alabama punches back. A true classic. Like, the word classic gets tossed around loosely a lot, but that really was a true classic.
Great point earlier about Arizona. They had such an advantage under the basket, yet they're having guys just chuck threes. Their whole game plan sucked from the get-go. Like, the fact that they lost that game, I put a lot of it on coaching.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage Late
Night.
Night.
Has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We got Paul Bovey on the on-deck circle. He's going to step up, and then we'll talk some NBA basketball. 28-26 for the T-Wolves over the Nuggets early in the second quarter of play. I thought the total was a little light at 214. In-game total is 216.5 right now, but it's on pace. 28-26. Nuggets are currently laying 6.5. So, Brady, I bet on Xander a lot over the years. Like years ago, I sort of identified. I was like, man, this kid's good. I'm going to ride him to win a major. And he's fallen short a million times. But I've been pretty consistent. I've probably done it for like 3 or 4 years, maybe 4 or 5 type. Like I'm up to like 16, 20 majors type of deal. You know what I'm saying? Like I've sort of backed off a little bit now. Like, you know what I'm saying? I've backed off a little bit, but I did cash. I was like, he's going to win the Olympics. And he did, right? He won the Olympics. Good. Yeah,
that's a course I use as a corollary to Augusta too.
It is.
And that's part of my reasoning here. Yeah, and also the Renaissance Club where he won the Scottish Open.
So can he break through this time? Why is it that he's at the top of your list?
I rarely bet on Xander. I can't remember the last time I bet on him was the Players Championship when he had the 54-hole lead and Scotty Scheffler in a blaze of glory caught him and beat him. But the guy's just been too good, and he checks so many boxes. Like I say, winning at Narashino in Japan, winning at the Renaissance Club. He's won at Kapalua. He just finished 4th at Riviera. He's won or done well at all the correlated courses. He's got 6 top 10 finishes just this season, including that near miss at the Players Championship. He's been runner-up here at Augusta. I mean, he's been betting Xander Schauffele to finish top 10 in a major is almost a sure thing. He does it year in and year out. So he's going to kick the door in eventually. And I think he's I know there's some websites out there that I really respect that have this guy rated as the second best golfer in the world right now. So I landed on Xander, got a good number at 18. It's come crashing down. I've still seen a 14 out there, which I don't think is too bad. I know we got PB and Gabe, the PB and Gabe sandwich coming up here pretty soon. So I'll just run over the rest of my outrights here real quick for you, my man. I took Willie Z. He was runner-up here as a debutante, backed that up with a 6th place finish. He was runner-up at Riviera. I think he's ready to go again. He's got all the tools to win around here. Then I took Hideki Matsuyama, maybe the hottest golfer in the world right now, won at Riviera, followed by a 12th place finish, a 6th, and a 7th. Just all on point, a former winner here, second only in this field the last 36 rounds for strokes gained tee to green, only to Scotty Scheffler. And then finally, Shane Lowry, the Irishman, at 70-1, and I've seen him come down closer to 55 or so. I still don't mind that price. Again, when you trim the field to just 30 guys or so, 50-1 still pretty attractive. This guy has 4 straight top 25 finishes at Augusta, including a 3rd place a couple of years ago when Scotty won it. He comes off of a tremendous Florida swing where he finished 4th, 3rd, and 19th. He plays difficult golf courses well. He's a big game hunter. Lowry is a long shot for me that I think has a real good shot to not only win it, but a real good bet for a top 20 finish, in my opinion, as well.
And finally, in closing, no Scotty Scheffler for you in matchups, no outright winners. You're staying away from Scotty Scheffler.
I saw a local book here. I think the matchup with Rory McIlroy is like Scheffler. I can't remember if it's McIlroy or Rahm, but it's Scheffler like minus 175, and the take back on the other players around plus 150 or so. But I saw one book around here that had Scheffler in that same matchup at minus 145. And my son had the app and I didn't. So I said, jump on that one. That's a good price on Scheffler. Here's the handicap for me on Scheffler. He could absolutely win this thing and very well might. He is legitimately the best player in the world. But I think his price should more be like 7. So I couldn't take 4. I think the true price on Scheffler is probably 7-1, not plus 450 or 4.
Great stuff as always, Brady. Excellent analysis. We're going to recap Brady's picks a little bit later on. We'll go over all of Brady's picks before the show is done tonight, including all of his matchup bets. Enjoy the tournament, Brady. Let's get it.
Can't wait. Thanks as always, Gabe.
There's the great Brady Cannon with his excellent insight. He was so good, he sold Paul Bovey to get out to Sharpie and start writing down the golf picks. Paul Bovey steps up, and good to see you, Paul. How you doing tonight?
Hey, good. I didn't have anything to write on, so it's all over my hand. I feel like I'm back in 6th grade, going into a test.
I want to keep these. You can always hit rewind on YouTube or something like that too. But good to see you, Paul. So do you dabble in the Masters a little bit? Do you just sort of follow people like Brady and stuff? Do you sort of ride the street? Do you ever do any your own personal golf handicapping before these big tournaments?
Yeah, and I actually did, and I landed on Jordan Spieth over Koepka, and the reason is, look, Spieth was dominant back in 2014. It was his first tournament here. He finished second, and then he goes on to win it, and he had a final round 62, I think, in 2018. I just think if he could get back to form here, he's a better golfer, at least on this course. Koepka is kind of a New York guy. He's dominated in the Big Apple. He's won a few tournaments there, and I just think it's worth it. It was worth it at $1.42. It's up to $1.54. So somehow I got on the right side of this thing. But I'm going to look at what Brady had to say, because he is sharp. He is the epitome of a guy that puts the work in. And you can't argue with success, because Brady certainly had it.
No, and Brady doesn't stretch himself out too thin, does he? Right? He's dedicated to golf and to NFL football. Not that he doesn't sort of personally bet on some other stuff, and it seems to pay off for him because, like you said, one of the best in the business on the links. So, pretty big game tonight, Paul, by NBA standards. In the big picture, it's not the end of the world. If Denver doesn't win this game and they're not first place, this and that. But nevertheless, we have the T-Wolves and the Nuggets here. Very close game right now, 33-32, a little under 8 minutes remaining in the first half right now. What did you think about this matchup with Denver laying 7 and the total was 214, which I thought was just a little light?
Yeah, I saw 6.5, 7, and I could not justify that for the Nuggets. I mean, Minnesota has won 2 out of 3. They were somewhat dominant in their last win. It wasn't a fluke. The three-point shooting, I think, was comparable, 9 of 28, 8 of 28. So it wasn't like one team got the best of it from beyond the arc. So I just saw value in the T-Wolves, and they've been playing pretty good basketball, and they actually have the inside track to winning this division. OKC even stands a shot at this point, but it should be a contentious game. And I'm looking for this one to come down to the wire.
And not to mention, too, guys, and I think Denver can win, but I got to agree with Paul. It's going to be close. We know it's going to be close all game. Jamal Murray back, but Jamal Murray's kind of a limit restriction as well. He's not fully back yet. Should be a fun game for the entire night. Like I said, it's 33-32 right now. We got a close one. And an entertaining one. And if you remember back last year, Paul, and I talked about this a lot, I brought it up, and people don't remember this stuff. People will jump on a team's bandwagon when they get good. But remember last year, I bought into Minnesota. I thought the trade was good. I was like, you know what? It's going to be good with Gobert there. It took a while for them to figure it out on the floor, right? And it looked worse than it was when Gobert punched somebody on the sideline, and people thought, oh, this team's falling apart. What a disaster. But you remember in the playoffs last year, I mean, the Lakers got swept, but the Lakers lost they were in pretty much 3 of 4 games type of deal. The last one got away from them, I think. But Minnesota beat them, right? Minnesota took them to overtime. Because I remember, Paul, I was attracted to the points last year. I was very contrarian. I was like, I'll take the T-Wolves plus the 11 or whatever it is, plus the 9. Like, they were getting big points. They got blown out once, but like I said, they actually beat the Nuggets in a game. They took them to overtime in another game. And I could just sort of see this Minnesota team, they match up well. Like, this would be a real playoff series, man, if they played each other in the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. They just, as you said, they match up very well. And the Nuggets have been vulnerable. And look, they've lost Jamal Murray for a few games, and that took its toll. But they have been a stalwart opponent this year, and I give them a lot of credit because when Karl Anthony Towns went down, they didn't really flinch. I think they lost 2 of the first 3, and then they had a stretch where they won, I think, 10 of 14. So we really haven't skipped a beat. So the T-Wolves have been solid, and I think they're going to make some noise come playoff time.
Paul Bovey kicking it with us. So Anthony Davis unable to play last night. That was a big game for the Warriors and the Lakers. And you and I have talked about it. As great as LeBron James is, like when AD was out last night, I was like, oh, I'm taking the Warriors. Like just point blank. I was like, oh, I'm taking the Warriors now. If AD played and LeBron was out, I wouldn't have been so automatic about it, Paul. Like AD is more important to the Lakers than LeBron is. Just point blank. Like they can't win without AD. They never been able to. When AD wasn't there, LeBron there in his first year, they didn't make the playoffs. All right? Then they win the championship with AD. They were playing with Phoenix. When Phoenix went to the finals, AD gets hurt. Boom, they lose every game after. And when Anthony Davis is on top of his game like he has been this year, like he's the best player on that team. And it was such a difference maker for them. But in the big picture, he's not hurt. You know, he had migraines or he was sick or whatever last night. But it was a big win for Golden State last night, nevertheless.
Yeah, it was. And now I watched the fourth quarter of that game and part of the third. And in the fourth quarter, these Warrior players were standing behind the three-point line, and it got to a point where the Lakers would be 4 or 5 feet away, and they weren't even coming out to meet him. They were just like, okay, go ahead and shoot. And you know what? The Warriors made him pay the price because I believe they converted 26 of, I think it was like 42. I might have the number of attempts wrong, but I do believe they made 26 three-pointers last night. But I was thoroughly unimpressed with the Lakers because of their lack of effort in the waning moments of the game. And they actually drew to 4 points, within 4 points, and then let it slip away. And ultimately, I believe the Warriors prevailed by 15 points. And now will be seated ahead of the Lakers because they actually won the season series. The Lakers are going to have it in front of them. They're going to have a lot of hard work to prevail and get through these playoffs and a lot of games because they're going to probably end up as a play-in unless they could catch the Kings and probably behind Golden State.
And D'Angelo Russell, he's going to get paid, and he scored a lot of points. But there were times last night where you remember why D'Angelo Russell's been on so many teams. As you stated, the lack of effort on D, couple of just horrible shots early in the shot clock in which it was like, okay, I guess you guys have just tapped out, and you're not committed to winning this basketball game tonight. We'll get Paul's thoughts on something that never happened before in the National Basketball Association. A team didn't attempt one free throw, and that team was the Boston Celtics somehow.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I mean, is it pretty much cut and dry that NC State is the biggest surprise of the weekend? I mean, I don't think anybody's bracket had the Wolfpack going this far.
I think they're going to find a way to keep this one close. And we all know Purdue's tournament history under Matt Painter. They've had a lot of early exits when they've been good teams, and maybe this is the time they'll exercise their demons. It's kind of like when Virginia lost to that 16-seed UMBC.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
We had the best team in Colorado losing. So there's like, it's not even like Colorado's going to sit on it, right? I mean, there's no way in the world we're not getting one more goal. We're going to cash this ticket. Cha-ching, cha-ching.
I love the bet. I love the price. I think that's, like I said, that's one we're going to have to, we're telling everybody right now. They're probably moving it in risk rooms everywhere right now based on us giving out this information.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
North Carolina come back, take the lead, and then somehow Alabama punches back. A true classic. Like, the word classic gets tossed around loosely a lot, but that really was a true classic.
Great point earlier about Arizona. They had such an advantage under the basket, yet they're having guys just chuck threes. Their whole game plan sucked from the get-go. Like, the fact that they lost that game, I put a lot of it on coaching.
SportsRage Late Night, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
SportsRage Late
This sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is Sports Rage. I am Morency. I got a new phone here. It's freaking driving me crazy. It's like I'm just trying to turn it off, and it's like popping up. Trying saying something. All right, turn off phone. I just told you. How about that? It says try saying something. Try to turn off device. Press the power and the volume buttons at the same time. So what, I got to do both at the same time? What the hell is this? Wow. Here we go. It's a piece of crap. Yeah, buyer's remorse, Paul. I got a new phone. I got like a cheaper knockoff of my last phone. I just should have stuck with the same one I got last time. But I don't really do anything with these phones. It's just like an Android Motorola.
Oh, okay.
It's 5G. It's like it's modern and stuff, you know? But I always drop them. I'm always cracking the screen and everything. So I'm like, I'm not spending big money on a phone anymore. I don't need to. But I just got to learn how to turn it on and off. Then I'll be fine. It was very frustrating. So I'm trying to get an in-game bet in here, too. And you can't bet on laptops anymore, Paul. Like, they geo-block you. It's like, no, you got to bet on your phone. It's like, what's the difference? I'm sitting beside it. Like, I'm sitting, beside a computer right now. What's the difference?
Last night, I have to tell you, I tried to get in a live bet on the Philippines game over 208.5, the first one. They have
you getting hooked now?
Yeah, I'm actually hooked. I actually check the menu every day. I love these games, actually. And I noticed the books are a little behind on these games and they're soft numbers. Anyway, I tried to go over 208.5. My internet went out for about 10 seconds. So it was a 10-second costly outage because it was going to be $500. They ended up scoring $213. So anyway, technology today is great, but there are imperfections, and sometimes they are ultimately very frustrating.
And costly at times. Yeah, tonight we have the PBA D-League. It's not the PBA Commissioner's Cup even, with D-League. More with Paul on the other side.